Hi, and welcome to Studio 411. I'm your host, Larry De Silva. Do you ever feel like you went to Egypt and back and never left your seat? But finally, we're here and we're on the air. So anyway, we have a great show today. Kate Callahan, a Connecticut native, singer-songwriter from West Hartford, recognized for her exceptional talents and has been called by Noel Paul Stookey as being, quote, Zen-like in her music and her performing. Kate has won the Hartford Advocate's Best Solo Performer 3 times, has been Greater Hartford Council Featured Artist of the Year, and is currently Best Songwriter in New England. So a ton of accolades and awards for our guest. And without further ado, featuring some songs and some not from her latest CD called Two Doors, here's our guest, Kate Callahan.
You can write me with a paper and pen, and you can read me between the bindings. And there you'll find me in the garden again, and you can feel me between the lightning, and you can hold me like God holds the breeze, and you can turn away when you're freezing, and you can melt me like a glacier at sea, and you can float away on my back. Forgotten what to say, and you can breathe me in like a message, and you can edge me off the trail you can lead, and you can find yourself on a mountain, and you can dream me, oh, and I can be the dream, and you can wake up happy as a fountain. Wake up happy as a fountain, happy as a fountain, happy as a fountain,
There we go. Thank you. Kate, welcome aboard. Thank you for coming to Studio 411. How's it going?
Thanks for having me here,
Absolutely.
Larry.
Now, what was that song that we just heard?
This is a much newer song, and it's called Fountain. And I like to describe it as a mantra song. So I've written a series of mantra songs where the chord patterns on the guitar are relatively simple. So they produce almost a hypnotic or trance-like feeling as you listen to the song, and the words are very simple. So again, you can, like an ancient mantra, you can kind of meditate with it.
There you go. No wonder that Noel Paul called you Zen-like. You're very deep. The way you describe it, again, what comes out is very simple and pure, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes, behind the whole thought process.
I like to think so.
There
yeah,
you go.
that's just
Absolutely.
the way. That's the way they get born.
There you go. Now, those of you out there that know, again, certainly our guest studio members today seem to know a lot about Kate. We even have one lady who came all the way from New York, from Brooklyn. My goodness. And we didn't even charge her to get in, so that's great. But now, when did you get started? I mean, was it as a child that you started picking up the guitar, or how did that all come about?
I started as a late teenager. I had sustained a traumatic brain injury at the age of 19, and had to leave college and rehabilitate. So my life had been altered dramatically from this injury. So what happened over the course of my recovery was that I had sort of exhausted all the medical routes, and hadn't really gotten to a place that that felt like natural or healed or healthy. So I thought, what if I try to learn to play an instrument that I have no past relationship to, no baggage with, because I was having trouble being the musician I had been prior to the accident. And so week by week, I studied acoustic guitar, very laboriously, very slowly, sometimes practicing only 5 minutes at a time. But it was the guitar, the lessons, and the sort of the reason for living each week that really helped me recuperate and recuperate from the accident, but also find myself all of a sudden with a budding career on my hands.
Now, you mentioned before, you obviously had either done music, sang, studied music. Did you play other instruments before you picked up the guitar, which would have been prior to the injury, or no?
Yeah, I was a vocalist and I was a cellist.
Ah, okay. Now, do you still use the cello in any of your music instrumental, or you leave it?
I do.
Yeah?
Yeah, on occasion I bring it out. I try to do eclectic things with it. I sort of let the pursuit of being a classical cellist go and decided to just do more creative and eclectic things. Yeah.
But now, I would assume that when you took up the guitar, and especially because, again, you were rehabbing, and if I recall some of your bio, again, doctor or doctors had, at least the impression I got, felt that you had gotten to a place where that was going to be about as much as you were going to recover, and then you kind of proved them wrong and said, no, I'm gonna, go strive for more, and then obviously all this came about. Correct?
It was, yeah, correct. They had used the word plateaued, said you had plateaued, and I thought, well, I need to do something different to help myself. So that's where the music came in.
And now, had you had not recorded anything prior to the accident, right? We're not on the lookout on eBay for any cello CDs. No, nothing.
No, I was a typical musical kid. I'd given a few recitals and had been in a few school musicals. And
you were in college when this took place, correct?
That's right.
Where you were going to school in Jersey?
I was at Rutgers.
Rutgers, there you go. And so then, did you wind up going back at any point to finish your Rutgers career, or did then the music kind of take over?
The music took over.
Yeah.
And I finally finished that bachelor's here in Connecticut. I studied at Central Connecticut State University and just graduated last May.
And aren't you doing some work or tutoring or mentoring there?
Yeah, I studied the genre of creative nonfiction writing, and I decided in practical means I could turn that into a college application essay coaching business.
Gotcha.
So I love helping high school seniors with their college app essays.
That's great. You're giving back and reaching new plateaus, as your doctors use that word. Would you do another song for us?
Sure.
All right, very good. What are we going to hear next?
I'll play something off of the album.
Okay.
I think this is the opening track. It's called Random Acts.
Very good. All right, Kate Callahan, everybody.
Oh, I took a book, I opened a page, and you watched me smile, then asked me to read one line from the top, maybe more than that. What is God gonna make of this random act? And the lines they read as if you were born to be living in trust of the wind when it blows. You're letting go of old chords you have found. What is God gonna make of this random sound? And oh night, oh, there's a shift in your light. And morning, when you lift up the veil without warning. Whoa, whoa. And the Ganges surfaces in all my dreams. I wake up weeping from all I've seen, and an old man limps with a child on his back. What is God gonna make of this random act? And the river runs wide, and the river runs long, and the people are bathing themselves on the banks, and the Westerners feel that this must be wrong. What is God gonna make of this random song? And oh night, oh, oh, there's a shift in your light. And oh morning, well you lift up the veil without warning. Whoa. What is God gonna make of this random sound? And I've been walking all day, and the sun gives its way to the moon, and I know I have come right here for the path. What is God gonna make of this random act?
Very good. Come on over. All righty. Kate Callahan again from the CD Two Rooms, or Two Doors. I'm sorry. I'm thinking Two Rooms. Yeah. I think I need a rubber room right about now. But anyway. Oh my goodness. So tell me about some of your influences. Let's see. Now that would have been post cello, right? Or were you? Who did you grow up liking musically?
Well, I had a lot of influences prior to the brain injury and the introduction to the guitar. I grew up in a very musical household. So some of the things I heard as a 3-year-old, as an 8-year-old, as a 15-year-old were artists like Herbie Hancock and Keith Jarrett and Bill Evans and a lot of jazz greats.
Wow.
My dad's a jazz pianist. And then from my mom's side, I was hearing music like some of the folk voices, Buffy Sainte-Marie, Joni Mitchell, Joan Baez, David Mallet, Gordon Bach. So I had a spectrum of music as a growing person, and I think that followed me into my career in terms of what, so the eclectic mix of what I like to listen to.
Definitely. I have to digress for a minute. Recently saw Jefferson Starship. It's a gentleman that's been with them for quite a long time. Used to be a member of a band called Quicksilver Messenger Service named David Freiberg, and he just did a Buffy Sainte-Marie song called Codyne. So you may want to check that out. It's an interesting tune, and again, I'll let you be the judge, but he does it. We've heard it several times, and obviously it's good. I've never heard her version of it, but he does quite a commendable job. So for
Wow.
folks that don't know Buffy Sainte-Marie, again, actually native Indian, I'm not going to say, well, Native American, I guess that would apply to folks that are from Canada, because she's actually Canadian and Native American. So usually we think Native American, we're talking just, kind of
States, yeah.
Our states, out west, or well, it could be from the old days in Connecticut before the slot machines took over. But anyway, but yeah, so Buffy Sainte-Marie. I love, like I said, talking about your dad's background. Now, what did he play? He was a pianist?
Pianist, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And what did I just hear the other day? Guy that I loved in college, Stanley Clark, just teamed up with Kevin Eubanks, who used to be the musical director for the Tonight Show, Jay Leno. They have a new collaboration coming out. So again, it's just great to hear people like that are, not kind of forgotten about. And you mentioned Bill Evans. I remember working with Tony Bennett and so many others. But speaking of CDs here, Two Doors, Kate Callahan here joining us on Studio 411. Tell me about some of the folks you've had the opportunity to encounter, open with. Regina Spektor. Now, somebody was a guest in someone's house. What was the story there?
Oh, yeah, Regina Spektor stayed with me for a weekend. Just a few months before her career really blew up, she came to Connecticut to perform in a music series that I was actually curating, and I fell in love with Regina as a person, and certainly musically. She's got a real depth of classical influence, but then she manifests it and expresses it in very wildly original ways, and I truly love her as an artist.
So we had a jam session at the apartment
We
there?
We did. We had, it's funny, we sort of put the word out and invited people to come over, and nobody came, and if people had only known
This group here would have come.
Was about to.
This group, Fran from Brooklyn would have driven down.
Fran would have been there.
She would have brought the cheese and the wine for sure. Absolutely. There you go. See, next time you got to put it on Facebook. Let us all know. We can all use an evening of good music and a little wine. That's terrific. A quote from Colin McEnroe, quote, "Kate Callahan is the only performer I've ever seen who occasionally seems to be channeling something vaster and far more ancient than herself, something more easily understood by Emerson than by any modern person," unquote. Quite a compliment, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, that one leaves me speechless, and it really shows me who Colin is, as much as it's a reflection of me and what I'm doing creatively and spiritually and personally. I've known Colin for years, and to have read that know that he experiences that when he's listening to my music, really gives me some insight into Colin McEnroe, beyond the radio host
and the newspaper stuff.
Current
Yeah,
blogger.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Does a little of everything for sure. Kate Callahan, Two Doors, joining us here on Studio 411. You talked about earlier before we started taping, we mentioned Joni Mitchell, and Joni is kind of like, if you've ever seen the movie Love Actually, it's kind of like, every woman, even from personal experience, Joni Mitchell is like the musical goddess to many females, and I asked you because again she's been under the weather in past months, and talk a little bit about any influences she may have given you.
Probably one of the singular most influential musician in my career. I've absorbed what she does and who she is for over a decade now, and I think what attracts me to Joni Mitchell is that she's a pioneer. She's not an imitator. She's just deeply original, and has to be. When you watch her and you watch past interviews, you just see how she can't be anything but directly original in any moment, and certainly in her music. And I don't know if I'm saying that, if I'm expressing myself very well, but it just attracts me to who she is as a being and a musician. And so when I bring that into my own process, I certainly don't want to imitate Joni.
Right.
And so I have to take what I feel from her and see how it how it translates in my own discovery of thought and relationship to music.
Years ago in college, and I'm reminded about this because of you mentioning your dad's, jazz background, whatever. When I was in college, he was doing an album, and forgive me, maybe if somebody in the audience remembers the title. Anyway, it had to do with Charles Mingus, who was, the jazz, well-known person,
Sure.
not mainstream by any means. But again, she was exploring different types. She had moved away from like the Big Yellow Taxi and all that stuff, and she was doing stuff that was not necessarily, top 40, and it just with each album, always reaching for different things. And I think that's the quality, the quality of a progressive artist, is you don't just stay, stagnant with what's going on. And then you said you're working on a new CD as we speak, or no?
Well, I'm certainly writing for it.
Yeah.
I'm not in the studio yet, but I have like I said, I have a series of mantra songs that I'm working on, and have just written a brand new song for an event that's coming up here in Hartford in April. And,
there you
go. So I'm actively writing, and really for me also, just before I jump back into the studio, I want to have more of a vision for what I'd like to do when I put it down on tape.
And a reminder, again, I don't have it here. I should have had it. Give our viewers the website, www.
Kate-Callahan.com.
That's not her middle name, so don't.
Yeah.
Hyphen. Okay, look it up. Look it up. Hyphen. Can we hear something else?
Sure.
What are you going to do for us now? Anything from the archives, or something new, unreleased, perhaps?
I think I'll do something new.
All right, everybody, Kate Callahan.
Over the years, I've become very inspired by the culture of recovery, and wrote this newer song to honor that culture. It's called Catalyzed. memory of mothering hands begging him not to leave. It isn't light now. The edge of a table in a bar makes him slide. And who allows 10 black and white years to be longer than life? And human love is all he needs now, and it's harder tonight. And you catalyze, and you catalyze. In a gas station cooler, something burns him inside. A healed rib, 3 months in the wounds, and holding down the line. But this hour's out of focus, and if you walk away now, you can trust God tonight. And human voice is all he needs now, and it's holding him tight. And you catalyze, and you catalyze. When you send him now to the edge of surrender, knowing wholeness and power and love. When it's on fire, when you practice the kneeling and lifting you higher in love, and you catalyze.
There we go. My goodness. It's like the Letterman Theater here. Cade Callahan joining us here on Studio 411. I just had a thought. Why don't you call the next CD Mantra?
Mantra. I like that.
Yeah. Simple but effective. And then someone will say, no, don't listen to him. But no, I think I was mulling that over. I said, that's pretty good. Thinking about Joni Mitchell as well. And all that. What other influences? Did you play with or open for Judy Collins at some point?
Did, yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah, what's that like? It was, it was nerve-wracking. That was the most nervous I've ever been, and it was just it's an experience when you're at the level that I am musically. You have the opportunity occasionally to open for people who have deep legacies in the music industry, in the music world, and it's always a gift. I was able to also open a few shows for Paul Stookey, Noel Paul Stookey, part of Peter, Paul and Mary, and actually spend a little bit more personal time with him and really receive some wonderful insights in terms of growing as a musician. So I think it's always it's always a gift to come in contact with those who have really gone before.
Yeah, those are some heavy hitters. I mean, when you start tracing back again, you know, being a little older, I mean, I can relate. You know, Judy Collins singing with Pete Seeger, Noel Paul and Mary and Peter, you know, singing with Pete Seeger, and you know, so many people, the Weavers, and you know, just a deep legacy. Now, do you consider yourself a folk artist, or what? How would you classify yourself? If
I
there
do.
is, yeah,
Yeah, okay. I do. I, you know, I will say I'm a contemporary folk artist. I'm an indie folk artist.
Indie meaning more or less, in the old days, used to mean pretty much like, in other words, independent, meaning there was no per se record label in those days. So now I think it's taken on. I don't know if it still has.
I think it's taken on even more of an artistic meaning. Indie meaning, you know, not typical, not traditional, not you know, maybe more of an eclectic folk sound.
No, any folks that you say, geez, I would like to perform with, but just haven't had the opportunity? Anyone come to mind that you've seen or that you've had any kind of dealings with, but haven't performed with yet?
Wow, there's probably. I mean, I would just be so honored to play with so many people, and I guess, you know, in addition to Joni Mitchell out there on the West Coast, there's Stevie Nicks. Not quite my genre, but just a woman who also I love to absorb and follow what she's doing in her career even today.
Yeah, I think with her, maybe the attraction is there too, because she's pretty prolific songwriter in her day. I mean,
I think
songs like "Landslide" and others that, you know, "Dixie Chicks" and others have, you know, kind of been drawn to. I think that's another thing that's kind of a I don't know, a drawing card or another feather in their cap. It's one thing to have the hit, but when you can really inspire someone to then do a cover version of their song, and successfully, that's even better. Someday they'll be doing yours. It'll be mantra covers. Ever think of doing a cover album or CD?
Not an entire cover album, but that was something Noel Stookey had mentioned to me years ago. He said, you know, you really, as a folk artist, part of the legacy and the tradition is to cover those artists who have gone before you. And because the first couple of years I was playing, I was just doing my music because I was so excited that I actually had this tool in my being, this ability to write songs. So when I met Noel, you know, he kind of set a bigger picture for me and said, you know, yes, keep bringing yourself forward as a songwriter, but also learn some of these older songs. Sure. So
there's quite a pool they've drawn from in their day. Noel Paul Stookey, of course, Peter, Paul, and Mary, Bob Dylan, John Denver, Chad Mitchell. You know, a lot of the folks that they had quite big success with those people and their songs. So again, that's good advice. Good advice. How was Joni, or not Joni, Judy Collins? She was good.
Her voice is sublime, and it hasn't changed. You know, it's changed in subtle ways, but it's there's something really profoundly healing about listening to Judy Collins' voice for me, because it's endured decades of use.
I'm reminded when I was in high school that we had an assembly of some kind, and they played, I think it was "Send in the Clowns" or one of her tunes, and then they had an instrument. It wasn't a pitchfork, it was some sort of electronic gizmo that was maybe hot on the market, and they made a point of stressing how that her voice was like in perfect pitch, you know, and it was just so, again, I just wonder over the years, of course, you know, voices change, you know, again, people like Johnny Mathis, Tony Bennett, these people vocalize, you know, rehearse 2-3 hours a day sometimes, and you know, I don't presume we know what Ms. Collins does, but again, certainly a marvelous voice over the years.
Yeah, she's doing something right.
There you go. What song are we going to hear next? What surprises do you have? Another one from the CD, or what would you like?
I think so. Yeah, I'll need to tune my guitar down for this one.
Very good. I think we should probably. Do we want to go here? Follow me. We're going to go over to the the audience. I don't know if I can reach there. If not, we'll just throw something at them and see. Oh, no, I can. Here we go. Anyone have a question for Kate? No. All of a sudden, these folks, yeah, we'll have questions. All of a sudden, and we have one guest who claims she knows me, but we'll discuss that after the program here. So, no? How about Fran? No? Fran, nothing from Brooklyn? What's going on here? Aye, oh my goodness, it's amazing how, it must have been the drive, yes, yeah. 84 is a tough road. Oh, all right, very good. Well, we thank you all for coming and enjoy. And Kate, when she is tuned up, she will give us another selection. Is this one from the new CD or?
This is from the Two Doors album.
Kate Callahan, everybody.
Swing Low. In the headlights, I saw you on the edge, and God just below you, ready to catch. And height has a way with making you small, when time gets you larger after the fall. And I said, swing low, sweet chariot, oh, coming for to carry me home. You drink down the sugar, it's sweet on the mouth, when you lay with your baby and love her out loud. Wake up amazing, calling it grace, 'cause you died there together, face to face. And I said, swing low, sweet chariot, oh, coming for to carry me home. Because all I ever was and will be is a soul. And I said this was the one way to open up when it's so beautiful to finally be loved. And I said, swing low, sweet chariot, oh, coming for to carry me home. And I said, swing low, sweet chariot, oh, coming for to carry me home.
Kate Callahan, everybody, the new CD, Two Doors. And while Kate makes her way over here, it's like a subway station, back and forth, back. All righty. She's joining us here on Studio 411 for the hour. Now, it must be pretty gratifying to be, especially here in the Northeast, to have been recognized by so many different awards and commendations. Must make it all worthwhile, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it does. It's nice to be recognized. It's nice to be acknowledged. I work hard. And it takes a lot of energy to do this, to give concerts regularly, and so to be acknowledged and received by the larger community and region is really, really nice.
Now, I know because we talked, because we originally were going to do this a few months ago, but of course with the weather here in the Northeast, sometimes things have to be rescheduled. But recently you were down in Florida. Tell us about that. You were at a big gathering there of musicians?
Yeah, I was at the Fort Lauderdale Folk Festival. And Florida in the past year has become a hub for me musically. And I'm scheduled to be back down there in September. And it's wonderful to meet the folk communities in different areas of the country, because there are differences in the way people organize themselves, and that's wonderful to encounter. But then there's always this core commonality of love of acoustic music and love of folk music, and I got to compete in a songwriting contest down at the Folk Festival in Fort Lauderdale, and I had this incredible experience of being on a stage that was set up, tucked into an enormous banyan tree, and so the tree sort of embraced the stage and the seats where the audience was listening from. And for me, that's just, it's like getting up and playing the songs that I've been playing in support of this record all year, but being embraced by nature in a way that only Florida can provide, really energized me, and it got me through the winter.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was down there on the holidays, and believe me, we want to come back. Why? Landing in 12 degrees of weather, and of course the tough winters that it could have been worse. We could have been in Boston, then we wouldn't have taped an episode all winter. So
it could have been worse.
We caught a break. Florida, of course, being what I just heard now, the third most populous state. So there's a lot of migration of a lot of Northerners down there. So it's in its own way, it's quite an eclectic mix, but.
It really is.
Yeah, but what you said before too now about going to different parts of the country, even sometimes from one state to another. I mean, we say it all the time. Connecticut kind of has its ways, and Rhode Island, you go there and folks are different and stuff. Now, how about down other parts of the country where you've had some interesting concerts or encounters? Tell us any come to mind? Gosh,
I've been down south. I played in Georgia and Florida primarily, and love the reception down there. When I played a little bit out in the Midwest and did a lot of driving. And I would say, God, the shows, after driving in your car for, 7 or 8 hours and through the Nebraska flatlands and just spending so much time by yourself, the moment I can walk onto stage and interact and have an intimate experience with an audience is so gratifying. But it's the juxtaposition between the loneliness of the driving, or not loneliness, but just the mundane nature of the driving, and then the exquisite nature of the performing and the experiencing. So I love being out in this country.
There you go. Now, have you ever gotten any inspirations? I'll give you an example. James Taylor claims that he wrote Sweet Baby James, one of his now deceased brothers, had a child, James, and decided, or a baby, and decided to name it after, you know, his now Uncle James, and wrote the song while he was driving from Massachusetts down to the Carolinas, where, you know, they grew up basically after being born here in the Massachusetts northeastern area. Any like, you know, great songs ever come, or, you know, piece of things, you know, like, quick, I got to pull over, or do you tell the chauffeur, you know, quick, stop and while I take some notes, or?
I was hiking down the Grand Canyon with two of my girlfriends, and I started to hear this phrase, and it went, "The spirit woman that's inside of me," she says, "How old are you now?" And I say, "I'm just 23. And I was sort of having this dialogue with my muse while I was hiking down into the canyon. And so promptly, when I had gotten back out and gotten in the car, I did start to write a song called Western South, which was written in Arizona and parts of New Mexico, and originated, you know, I just remember being in the Grand Canyon and just hearing this this song come on. So yes, I do. I write, you know, I write in the least convenient of places, and in the car, in the hotel room.
Now, do you find performers, let's say that they are on an extensive tour, which again, I'm talking sometimes months, which I presume hasn't been the case for you yet. You know, you do the tour here, weekends, whatever, the long weekends, whatever. But again, I don't know how they can kind of collect themselves. You know, they're in a different city, a different state every night, and then I guess some of the great songs that come out of like the tour bus, as opposed to just, you know, an SUV or a sedan. I don't know. Do you find that it's easier to write, or do you need, like, you know, total solitude, or are you in the middle of a, you know, St. Patrick's Day parade saying, "Hey, I'm jotting notes down"? You know?
I need a little bit of the right space and the right solitude, but no, I think over the years, it's a sort of a momentous thing when a song comes on, and I've learned not to miss out on that. So if I'm in the back seat of a car, or you know, or on a bus, or somewhere amidst people, I'm still going to try my hardest to get pieces of that down, you know. And when I started writing music, this was before the time of cell phones or smartphones and digital recording apps, and I used to remember everything in my precious brain, which had been injured at a young age, and so I you know, I would say to myself, well, if I don't remember this by the time I get home, then it's not worth writing. And that would be my gauge. If I could remember a fragment or a piece or a chord progression hours after the fact, then I knew it was a song that had to come into the world. Now, I you know, I have the recording apps and the digital recording, and so now I just grab everything. I grab everything, and it's still, there's still certainly a process of discernment. What should come into the world, what shouldn't. But I guess at some point I may be able to just have fun listening back to the archives of everything that did and didn't quite make it.
I know it's old school, but again, I know some people, whether they're authors or songwriters, perhaps still do it. You know, and I believe they're still sold because kids use them in school sometimes, although it's probably more digital. But the old, you know, the old thing where it was like a cassette player, but now it's a digital one where you just press the button, all of a sudden, oh, you know, I got a thought in my head, and then you do that. Have you ever tried that? In other words, so this way, instantaneously, I can just click on that. Okay, you know,
yes.
Pick up a loaf of bread. And, oh, by the way, this lyric, you know, and then you, at your leisure, you can go back. I mean, I'm sure you do it with your cell phone now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Something you mentioned reminded me of a story in your bio that I guess early on when you were performing, you had a thing where you would go to bed at night, and then you would have to, like, before you could fall asleep, you had to convince yourself and then say to convince yourself, no, I'm not going to do this again. Now, is this like stage fright, or in the brief time we have left. What was that all about?
Oh God, it was intense. It was, I don't think it was stage fright. It was a profound sense of self-consciousness. So I would perform at the open mics, and then I would lie in bed and just hash over every look from the faces in the audience, every comment, every cough, every sneeze, and somehow make it about me. And that's where I was as a young woman. I was very self-conscious. So yes, I would lie in bed and say, I promise I'll quit. I'll quit. And then I would fall asleep, you know, and then I would wake up and I would renegotiate.
See, I can relate. I do that after every taping. I go to bed and I convince myself I'll never do another one of these again. And then I wake up, oh, I got an idea for a show. So see, so it's all, you know, and so that's how it goes. You're always looking ahead, always moving forward. Kate Callahan joining us for the hour here on Studio 411, the CD Two Doors, and we're going to try something different. We're going to actually bid you farewell, and we're going to toss it over to Kate, and Kate will take us out with a song that she'll surprise us and she'll tell us. So I'll fill while you head over to the podium. And we thank you for joining us, and we look forward to when the newest release. I want to mention if it's called Mantra, by the way. So, all right. So either that or something Fran from Brooklyn said. So whatever, I'll leave it up to you. Thanks for joining us here on Studio 411, and in the remaining moments we have, welcome again our guest for the hour, Kate Callahan.
There's sun and rain. My name is both hot and cold, and I grace different hearts in different ways, and my stories get me told. And I am a warrior. I am a playful day. So don't wait, your dream is near. You're only 1 hour away. So when it's inside and you know your own way, you dance with people, it sweeps your fears away, and you are the voice that breaks through the walls that dare to find you. And I am a corridor, and I am an open stage, and my gift is behind every door, and my laughter's in the play. And don't all dreams see good and bad days? Don't people find a way? So don't wait, your dream is near. You're only 1 hour away.